Hi guys, I'm back with another video. Today's video is going to be dedication to Jimmy Carter. Now, you guys already know that I typically don't do videos on Saturdays, but I feel like I gotta do this video because Jimmy Carter has died. Now, if you don't know who Jimmy Carter is, he was the former 39th President of the United States. Unfortunately, he passed today at the age of 100 years old. Yes, that's correct. He died at the age of 100 years old. Basically, this video is a dedication to him. I'm going to be talking about his life, when he was president and all that. So if you guys didn't know, Jimmy Carter was the former 39th President of the United States. His name is Jimmy Carter, but his real name is James Earl Carter Jr., and he was born on October 1st, 1924 in Plains, Georgia. He was in the United States Navy. He was active from 1946 to 1953. He was also in the United States Navy Reserves from 1953 to 1961. If you didn't know, Jimmy Carter is from Plains, Georgia, and he was a peanut farmer, and he had a peanut farm, and he was the very first president to ever become a president as a peanut farmer. So yeah, he was the first president to be a peanut farmer. Interesting. He was also the 76th governor of Georgia from January 12th, 1971 to January 14th, 1975. He was also the 39th president of the United States from January 20th, 1977 to January 20th, 1981. Jimmy Carter is known for a lot. He is known for his successes, but he is also very much known for his failures. If I had to say Jimmy Carter, he wanted to bring honesty and integrity to the United States presidency. He was very much against corruption, and he was very much a humanitarian, but he does have his failures, which I will get into soon. But I think, I think Jimmy Carter was very admirable for trying to bring honesty and integrity to the United States government. He was very much against corruption, but like I said, he's had his own failures, and I'm going to get into these failures now. And I'm pretty much just going over pretty much everything you need to know about Jimmy Carter if you don't know who Jimmy Carter is. Because Jimmy Carter, he is a very important person in United States history. He is the former 39th President of the United States. He is the first ever president to reach 100 years old. And I don't think, and I'm not saying this to be rude or anything, but I don't think anybody else but him will be able to reach 100 years old as being a former president. Hey, maybe Trump or Biden will do it. Who knows? They're pretty old, but yeah, this is just me talking about the life of Jimmy Carter and me doing a dedication video to him because, like I said, he's an important person to United States history. He's the 39th president of the United States. So, I felt like I need to do a dedication video. Now this, I don't really, I'm going to explain this. I don't really do political videos on my channel anymore because political videos just get into arguments with people. People like to argue about politics. I used to be a political YouTuber. Now I'm not anymore. I don't really talk about politics. Actually, the last political video that I ever did, and that was the most recent one, I did a dedication video to Walter Mondale, who was Jimmy Carter's vice president. He died a couple years ago. And, that was a political video, but I'm not making this video political. I'm just, this video is for the dedication of the life of Jimmy Carter. I'm talking about his presidency, his successes, his failures, and his legacy. So that's pretty much what this video is about. So this video is a dedication of life, not a political video. Now, I know there's probably going to be people in the comments saying, well, you discuss politics in the video, you're discussing his successes and his failures and his presidency. Well, that's because Jimmy Carter was a former president and he died today and we're celebrating his life. So I gotta talk about this shit. Also, it's history, so... But anyway, we're going to get into the failures of Jimmy Carter now. So one of his most famous, well, two of his most famous failures. The first one is the Playboy scandal. And this happened before he even became president. So this happened in 1976 when the presidential election was going on, when he was going against the incumbent president, Gerald Ford, who was the 38th president, who took over after the Watergate scandal for Richard Nixon, and he had a Playboy. He had a Playboy interview, and that's why they call it the Playboy scandal, because he said this, and this is a quote from Jimmy Carter. He did say this. You can look this up. "I've looked on a lot of women with lust. I've committed adultery in my heart many times." So that's one of his first scandals. And then his second scandal, which I think is even worse out of the first one, is the Iran hostage crisis, which took place from November 4th, 1979 to January 20th, 1981. So basically, Iran took hostages from America, and it was a whole thing with Jimmy Carter. He was trying to get these hostages back, and this is pretty much one of the biggest things that caused him not to become president again. And so the hostages were eventually released by the Algiers Accords, and this also caused the severance and the end of Iran and U.S. relations, and Iran and the United States haven't had very good relationships ever since then. So, yeah, and the United States and various other nations imposed on Iran after that. They imposed sanctions. And under Jimmy Carter's presidency, 8 Americans were killed, and one Iranian civilian was killed during an attempted rescue of the hostages. So those are the successes and the failures of the Jimmy Carter presidency. But what about after? Well, Jimmy Carter, pretty much after his presidency, he pretty much retired from politics. After that, he pretty much became a humanitarian, like I said before. He pretty much fought for human rights throughout almost of his whole life, and so he became a humanitarian after that. After he also owned a peanut farm, like I said, he's a peanut farmer. He also wrote various children's books. And pretty much the rest of his life, he retired. He went into a private life after his presidency. He talked at like Democratic national conventions, I think. And that's pretty much what happened to Jimmy Carter. Now, during 2023, the year 2023, his family put him on hospice care because he was 98 years old, and they didn't know how much longer he had to live, and a lot of people were surprised that he lived to 100. I was honestly surprised, and one of the last things he wanted to do before he died was to vote in the 2024 presidential election. Now, I'm not going to say anything because it's going to cause a political argument. All I'm going to say is that the last thing Jimmy Carter wanted to do before his life ended was vote for Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party. Now, the legacy of Jimmy Carter, a lot of people and a lot of historians say that Jimmy Carter, he had his successes, but he also has a failure. His own party, the Democratic Party, called him a failure. And a lot of historians and a lot of people say that Jimmy Carter was a below average president because of the time and the various successes and scandals that he had. But overall, uh, I think his presidency doesn't really matter. I think Jimmy Carter, even though he had his successes and even though he had his failures, I think he was a great human being. He was a great overall. He was a great human being. He did a lot of stuff for people. He was a humanitarian. You being a humanitarian doesn't mean that you have to be a great president. Now, that would be a bonus, but Jimmy Carter, you know, he had his failures, he had his scandals, he had his successes, but he was a great human being. And um so yeah, this is pretty much the dedication video to Jimmy Carter. Me just pretty much talking about him, talking about his presidency and his life. He unfortunately died today on December 29th, 2024, at the age of 100 years old. Everybody pretty much celebrated his 100th birthday, pretty much all the current living presidents. Yeah, and he died at 100. We're not too sure what he really died from. I'm going to say he died from natural causes because of how old he was. He was 100, so he died of natural causes. This video is getting pretty long. There's not much else for me to say. I've pretty much said everything I needed to say about Jimmy Carter. He's a great human being. Rest in peace, Mr. President. We're all gonna miss you. I send my condolences to the Carter family. I hope everybody's doing okay. I feel bad for Jimmy Carter's children because Jimmy Carter has 4 kids and they're probably missing their father dearly. So I send my condolences to them. And that is my dedication video to Jimmy Carter. And if you guys like this video, please don't forget to please like, subscribe, and comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Period.